The clock on the wall read 9:20 when Savannah Whitfield understood that no one was coming to save her. And instead of falling apart, she asked for dinner to be served. "Bring it all out," she said, and her voice did not shake, not even a little. "It's over." The waiter standing closest to the head table froze, an empty tray braced against his hip. He was 29, dark-haired, hair combed neatly back, his black vest crisp despite the long night already behind him. He looked at her the way you look at someone who has just said something important in a language almost no one in that ballroom spoke. The language of a woman who refuses to kneel. "All of it, miss?" he asked. "All of it. The 200 place settings, if that's what it takes, the 7-tier cake, the wine my father picked out thinking we'd be toasting to something else tonight." Savannah adjusted the veil on her shoulder the way someone straightens a cape. "I am not going to let this dinner go to waste because a man couldn't find his way to his own wedding." What she didn't know yet, what neither of them could have guessed in that moment, was that before the last lights of that empty ballroom went dark, this same waiter would untie his apron, walk across the deserted dance floor, and ask her the one question nobody else had asked her all night. "May I have this dance, miss?" But that would come later. Right now, there were 200 chairs, and nearly all of them were emptying out. The venue was called Magnolia Hall, the prettiest reception space in Savannah, Georgia, with crystal chandeliers hanging like clusters of light and tall windows looking out over a garden where, just 2 hours earlier, they were supposed to release white doves. Savannah had picked this place with Bradley on a Sunday in February, back when she still believed that things planned with love actually come true. They'd argued over the color of the napkins. Ivory had won. Bradley's choice. Ivory, she thought now, staring at the spotless linen in front of her plate. What a waste of an argument. Behind her at the tables, people were doing what people do once someone else's disaster has stopped being interesting. An aunt slung her purse over her shoulder. A cousin folded his jacket over one arm. Murmurs rose, that low hum of 200 mouths pretending they weren't talking about her while talking about nothing else. Poor thing. 2 hours she waited, 2 whole hours. I said from the start that boy couldn't be trusted. Let's go before she starts crying. I don't want to see her cry. Savannah heard word. Her hearing was sharp that night, honed by humiliation, and each sentence landed clear as if it had been whispered right into her ear. She could have stood up. She could have run to the bathroom, locked the door, let her makeup slide down her face in private. That's what they expected of her. She could feel it in the air. They were waiting for the tears so they could comfort her, so they could tell the story later of how they'd been there for her, so they could become the main characters of a tragedy that belonged to her alone. She was not going to give them that satisfaction. A cousin approached, first the one who always organized everything, purse already on her shoulder. "Sav, honey, let's go. I'll drive you. Don't sit here and let people see you like this." "See me like what?" Savannah said without fully turning around. "You're not okay, sweetheart. Nobody's okay after what they did to you. Come on, grab your things." "My things are exactly where they belong." "And so am I." Savannah finally looked at her with a pleasant smile that left no opening. "You go on ahead, Kayla. Give the kids a kiss for me." "Savannah," her cousin lowered her voice, hurried. "People are talking. If you stay here alone, tomorrow's going to be worse. They'll say you lost your mind." "They'll talk if I stay, and they'll talk if I go," Savannah said. "Since they're going to talk either way, I'd rather give them something worth talking about." She took the ivory napkin and laid it slowly across her lap, ready now for her dinner. "Go on. I've got a meal to eat." Her cousin opened her mouth, closed it, shook her head, and left the way people leave when they don't understand, but don't want to argue anymore. Behind her went 2 aunts, a family friend, half the folks from Bradley's office, who didn't even bother to say goodbye. Savannah let every last one of them go. Each car pulling away outside was one less weight in the room, and strangely, one less weight on her chest. "Miss," the waiter was still there. He hadn't moved. "Forgive me for pushing, but the kitchen needs to know if we're really doing this. There's a lot of food and folks are clearing out." "I know they're clearing out." Savannah lifted her chin and looked over the whole room, the round tables, the flower centerpieces already starting to droop. "Let them go. I'll be dining alone." She said it without any drama, calm as someone reading off the weather. "There's going to be a banquet tonight, sir. Just one. A party of one." "A party of one," the waiter repeated, no mockery in it, testing the words. "A party of one," she confirmed. "Sounds nice, doesn't it? Better than the leftovers of a wedding that didn't happen." And right there, without meaning to, Savannah named the night. The party of one. The name that would end up giving her back the room Bradley had tried to take from her. The waiter studied her a second longer. His eyes were dark brown, tired from the shift, but awake with something he couldn't quite name. He didn't smile. It would have been disrespectful to smile. But something in his face shifted, settled, as though he suddenly understood his job tonight wasn't going to be clearing plates from a dead party, but holding up the dignity of a woman who refused to let it die along with everything else. "Understood," he said. "I'll start with the soup then. Tastes better hot." "Start with the wine," she corrected. "Starting with the wine." Something close to a smile touched the corner of his mouth without quite breaking through. "Excuse me, miss." He turned and walked toward the kitchen, weaving between the tables that were emptying out, sidestepping guests hurrying off with that awkward rush of people fleeing a funeral. Savannah watched him until the swinging doors swallowed him up. Then she looked back at the seat to her right, the one meant for Bradley, covered with a white chair cover tied with a gold bow. She didn't cry. She pulled off her long gloves finger by finger with the calm of a woman who has all the time in the world, and set them folded neatly beside her plate. Outside, a car engine started, then another. The party bled out through the parking lot, and she stayed there, in the center of it all, alone, her crown slightly crooked, 200 chairs starting to go cold. "Let them go," she murmured to herself. "I ordered this dinner, and I am going to eat it." When the waiter came back, he was carrying a bottle and a single glass. He poured slowly, label turned toward her, the way you pour at tables where it matters who's drinking. "Your name?" Savannah asked, surprisingly even herself. "Marcus," he said. "Marcus Bell, at your service." Savannah lifted the glass to the light, studied the color of the wine, and for 1 second the whole room, with its empty chairs and its dwindling murmurs, stopped mattering. "Well, Marcus, you and I have a banquet to attend to." "Should I bring out the appetizers too, Miss Thur? There's about 40 platters nobody touched." "All of it, Marcus. I already told you. Everything that was on this wedding's menu is getting served tonight, even if I have to eat it in tiny bites until sunrise." "That's a lot of food for one person." "Then it'll be a lot of food for one person." Savannah tasted the wine. It was good. Bradley, for as badly as everything else had gone, had at least had good taste in wine, and that gave her a warm little flash of anger that even that had worked out. "You know what, Marcus? I'm going to tell you something, and don't take it the wrong way because none of this is your fault." "Go ahead." "My whole life I was taught that when a woman gets humiliated, she makes herself small. She goes quiet. She endures it. She goes cry in the bathroom and comes out with a washed face and smiles like nothing happened." She set down her glass. "And today when my father came in to tell me Bradley wasn't coming, I waited to feel that, the urge to shrink. It never came. Something else came instead. It came as hunger. Hunger for this dinner, for this night, for my own party. Does that sound crazy to you?" Marcus thought about it, actually thought about it, in no rush to answer, just to answer. "I think," he said finally, "that in 9 years of working here, I have never heard anyone say something so sane in the middle of something so sad." He paused. "So, no, miss, it doesn't sound crazy to me. It sounds like you're the only person in this entire room who's thinking clearly tonight." "Well then." Something in Savannah's chest eased just slightly. "Start with the wine, Marcus," she said, softer now. "And for heaven's sake, stop calling me miss every other sentence. It makes me feel 80 years old." "What should I call you then?" "Savannah's fine. Today I stopped being anybody's wife before I even started, so Savannah works just fine." "Savannah," he repeated, trying the name out. "Excuse me, I'll go get your banquet." 2 hours earlier, Savannah had been the happiest woman in Magnolia Hall, and she wasn't ashamed to admit it. She'd arrived in a white car with her father, Frank Whitfield, who spent the whole ride clearing his throat so she wouldn't notice how choked up he was. She'd come in through the side entrance so Bradley wouldn't see her early. She'd looked at herself in the long mirror in the bridal suite, and for once she'd liked what she saw, which didn't happen often, because Savannah was one of those pretty women who grew up hearing they were interesting, which is the word people use when they don't want to say pretty. She worked at a pharmacy, and that matters because in the story people would later tell about her around town, she'd get turned into a lot of things. The jilted bride, the proud one, the crazy woman from the banquet. But first and foremost, Savannah filled prescriptions 7 to 3, 6 days a week, and studied to be a nurse 2 nights a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. She didn't come from money. The dress had been paid off in installments over 8 months. Her father had covered the hall with a lifetime of savings from fixing washing machines and refrigerators. Bradley was supposed to cover half or so, they'd agreed. Bradley Coleman sold insurance. He was handsome in that easy way men are when nothing serious has ever gone wrong for them. He talked smooth and he knew how to make you feel like the only person in a crowded room. He'd won her over across 14 months of small gestures. Flowers on Fridays, good morning texts, a ring she knew he couldn't pay for outright, which somehow made it feel more valuable to her. The first hour late, Savannah wasn't worried. Traffic, the necktie nerves hit men differently. The second hour was something else entirely. He's not answering. Her father had come into the bridal suite, phone in hand, wearing an expression she'd never seen on him before. My girl, he's not answering any of his phones. He's probably on his way. Frank sat beside her on the little bench, awkward in a suit that fit too tight, and took her hands. His palms were rough from a lifetime of work. The best man called a little while ago. Bradley sent him a text, just a text, says he's sorry that they should forgive him. There it was. The entire wedding fit inside that one short sentence. 14 months, 8 months of payments, 200 guests, a 7-tier cake, and it all came down to the hands of a man who hadn't had the nerve to say it over the phone, let alone to her face. Savannah wouldn't remember later the exact minute she stopped waiting. She'd remember her father's silence, how the poor man kept reaching for words and couldn't find any that didn't hurt worse. She'd remember her own breathing slowing down, going deep, the way you breathe when you're about to carry something heavy. Do they already know out there? She asked. It's spreading. People are starting to figure it out. Savannah stood in front of the mirror. She looked at the dress 8 months of payments, the veil, the crown her late mother had worn at her own wedding. She smoothed the loose strand of hair. A text, she said slowly. 14 months and he leaves me a text to the best man. Not even to me, to the best man. My girl, don't read it yet. Don't do that to yourself. What did it say, Dad? Frank closed his eyes for a second, the way a man does before hauling a heavy piece of furniture up a staircase. Said he wasn't ready, that they should forgive him, that he'd sort out the money later. His voice cracked on the last word, and that, more than the news itself, was what tightened Savannah's throat. Her father, a man who never cried, swallowing it down for her sake. Forgive me, my girl. I brought him around. I told you he was a good man. You didn't do anything wrong, Dad. Savannah squeezed his rough hands. Listen to me. Of everything that's about to happen tonight, and a lot is about to happen, none of it, not one bit, is your fault. Do you hear me? 200 people out there, honey. 200. I know how many there are. I sent the invitations. Savannah took a breath and stood up straight. I'm not sneaking out the back door, she said. My girl. No, Dad, listen. She turned to him, and Frank saw something in his daughter's face that made him go quiet, because it was his own stubbornness looking back at him, the very thing he'd passed down to her without meaning to. If I run out of here, the story's going to be that they destroyed me. They'll say, poor Savannah, for the rest of her life in the grocery store. At church, they'll call her the jilted bride until the day she dies. She took a breath. And I am not giving Bradley that gift. He left. A pause. Fine. But we paid for this party, and this party is staying right here with me. Frank looked at her for a long moment. Then he did something that broke Savannah's heart in the good way. He nodded, wiped his sleeve across his face, and said, "That's my girl." He walked her to the door of the main hall. There, Savannah asked him to go ahead to the table that she'd walk in alone. And he, who understood his daughter better than she gave him credit for, didn't argue and went in. She walked into that ballroom alone, where 200 people pretended not to stare and stared at nothing else. She crossed between the tables, bouquet still in hand, all the way to the head table, set long for the couple and both families, her seat waiting in the center. She sat down, set the bouquet aside, and when an aunt came over, mouth already puckered for condolences, Savannah raised a hand, gentle but firm, and said the sentence that founded the whole night. "Don't come give me your condolences, Aunt Linda. Nobody died. Come have dinner if you want. There's plenty of room." Aunt Linda did not stay for dinner. Almost no one did. The truth is, people prefer a clean tragedy with its crying and its hugging and its gossip over a woman sitting up straight deciding her humiliation is not going to touch her. That made them more uncomfortable than tears ever could. One by one, the tables emptied. It was during that exodus among the first to leave that Savannah heard the nickname for the first time. Two distant cousins walked by on their way out, and one said to the other in that whisper people think is secret and never is, "Can you believe it? She's still sitting there eating dinner?" They said it mockingly, like a cruel little hallway joke. The kind of nickname that sticks to a person and follows them for years. The bride who stayed for dinner. Savannah heard it clearly and felt the sting, the heat rising in her face. For 1 second, she was right on the edge of folding. But the next second, Marcus came out of the kitchen with the first tray and set it down in front of her and said, "Your first course, miss," with the seriousness of a fine restaurant, as if she were the most important guest in the whole city, not the woman everyone else was running from. And Savannah decided right then that if they were going to call her, that she was going to make that name mean something else before the night was over. Marcus Bell was 29 years old and had spent 9 of them serving other people's parties. He'd started at 20 hauling soda crates for weekend weddings at Magnolia Hall, taking whatever classes he could afford on the side until the money ran out and school became a door that closed slowly. Then busboy, then assistant, then waiter, and now he was practically a floor captain, the one management sent to the difficult tables because he knew how to read people, knew when to step in and when to disappear. In 9 years, he had seen everything. Mothers-in-law brawling in the middle of the dance floor, grooms kissing brides with a love that made you almost jealous, the good kind of jealous. Drunk uncles crying kids asleep under tables, grandmothers dancing alone out of pure joy. He figured he'd served more than 400 weddings. Not once in any of them had anyone ever saved him a dance. It wasn't that it hurt exactly. You get used to being the one holding the tray while the world celebrates. It was his job, and it was honest work, and his mother, who cleaned houses for a living, had taught him there's no job that should shame you, only shameful ways of doing it. But that night, watching Savannah sit alone at the long table, spine straight, her crown just slightly crooked, the room bleeding out around her, Marcus felt something that wasn't pity. He knew pity. It was what everyone else felt for her, and what she rejected with every gesture. What Marcus felt was recognition. He recognized someone who also knew what it was like to stand at the center of a party that wasn't for them. He went back to the kitchen for the second course. Inside it was chaos and gossip. "Let her have it all and let's send her home," said the manager, a mustached man named Mr. Dawson, checking the clock on the wall. "The hall's booked through 1. After that we bill by the hour, and I doubt the young lady's in the mood to spend more." "She asked us to serve everything," Marcus said. "It's paid for. It's her right." "Her right." Dawson scoffed. "Marcus, that girl is making a spectacle of herself. The dignified thing would be for her to go home." "A spectacle." Marcus stopped tray half-loaded. "Mr. Dawson, with respect, how many weddings have you sat through in your life? I've got 22 years in this hall, kid." "Then you've seen what I've seen. Brides screaming, mothers-in-law pulling hair, drunk guests breaking chairs, people skipping out without paying the open bar tab." Marcus straightened the napkin on his tray. In 22 years, how many times have you seen a woman take the worst hit of her life and sit there and finish her dinner with her head held high, without insulting a single soul, being kind even to the guy refilling her water glass? Dawson tried to answer, but the words caught in his throat. None, Marcus answered for him. Me either. So I'm not calling that woman ridiculous. I'm calling her a lady even if she didn't get married today, because she earned that word more than half the brides who did. The kitchen staff who'd been pretending not to listen had gone quiet. Miss Dot, the head chef, a woman with red hands and a stained apron, pointed her spoon at Marcus. The boy's right. Dawson and I did not cook for 200 people so it could all go in the trash. She turned. Marcus, take her the salmon. And while you're at it, take the gumbo I made. That one turned out contest-worthy if I do say so myself. She turned back to her stove. Take it to her, Marcus, and tell her Miss Dot says eat every bite food made with a little fire in it heals faster. Marcus took the tray for the second course, balanced it on his forearm, and looked at his manager with a calm that left no room for argument. With all due respect, Mr. Dawson, tonight she's the one who decides what's dignified. We just serve. And he walked out before Dawson could answer. He crossed the ballroom more than half empty now. The younger waiters were already clearing the abandoned tables, stacking untouched plates, and a few kept glancing at Savannah out of the corner of their eye, with that mix of curiosity and pity she couldn't stand. Marcus, passing a coworker, said quietly, Don't look at her like that. Look at your tray. The young man dropped his eyes and kept clearing. He reached the head table and set the plate in front of Savannah with the same care he'd have used for a diplomat. Second course, he said. Salmon. Kitchen made this for 200, so if you'll let me, I'll bring you the best cut. It'd be a crime to let this go to waste. Savannah looked at him. She had pushed her veil back, taken off her gloves, and without them she looked at once smaller and stronger, as if she'd shed the bride costume and kept only the woman. Sit down, she said. Marcus blinked. I'm sorry. Sit. There are 199 free chairs. Pick one. She gestured at the room, taking in the whole ruined scene. I don't like eating while someone stands over me watching. Makes me nervous, and I've had enough nerves for one day. Miss, I'm working, I can't. You're serving a party of one, Marcus. I'm the one. And the one is asking you to sit down. A spark crossed her eyes, the first thing close to amusement all night. Besides, what are they going to say that the waiter sat down with the crazy woman from the banquet? They're already saying worse things. Marcus glanced toward the kitchen where Dawson was out of sight. He looked at the chair she'd pointed to, one of the good ones, 2 seats down from her, and then he did something 9 years of serving other people's parties had never let him do. He pulled out the chair, sat down, and for a moment set the tray on the table like any other guest. 5 minutes, he said. If the manager sees me, I'm fired. If the manager sees you, you blame it on the crazy woman from the banquet. I'll back you up. Savannah cut a piece of salmon, brought it to her mouth, chewed slowly, and closed her eyes for a second. It's good. It's actually really good. What a waste it would have been. The kitchen here is some of the best in the city, Marcus said. People pay a fortune for this menu and then don't even taste it, too busy taking pictures and working the room. You're the first person in a long time who's actually eating it. Well, somebody had to. Savannah tried the gumbo and raised her eyebrows. Oh, this is incredible. Who made this? Miss Dot, our head chef. She told me to pass along a message since we're on the subject. What did she say? That you should eat every bite. That food made with a little fire in it heals faster. Marcus allowed himself the smallest smile. Word for word. Savannah went still, fork in the air. For a moment her eyes went bright, and this time she didn't know if it was the gumbo or the unexpected kindness of a stranger in a kitchen who didn't even know her. Tell Miss Dot, she said, voice a little thick, that she's the first person all night who said something that actually helped, and that her gumbo is worth more than this entire wedding put together. I'll tell her. She'll be thrilled. Have you eaten? Waiters don't eat until the event's over. The event's over, Marcus. Everyone left. She slid a clean plate toward him, one of the many going untouched. Help yourself. It's paid for, I already told you. And don't make me eat alone for real. That really would be sad. Marcus looked at her for a long moment, then slowly he took the plate. They ate. It wasn't a romantic dinner, not yet. It was something stranger and better. It was an honest meal between two people who owed each other nothing and so could say anything at all. Marcus served himself a little salmon with the shyness of someone doing something forbidden, and Savannah poured him half a glass of wine because drinking alone brings bad luck. Outside, the last cars pulled away, and the hall finally settled into silence, the big silence of crystal chandeliers and abandoned tables. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said. "You're already asking. Why did you stay?" "Really? Not to prove a point? Not for revenge? Just between us, why didn't you go home and cry like anybody else would?" Savannah turned the glass between her fingers, watching the wine climb the sides. "Because I can cry at home, tomorrow and the day after and all week if I want to," she said. "Nobody's going to take that away from me, but tonight only happens once, and if I'd left, the only picture 200 people would carry with them would be my back walking out the door, the jilted bride running." She looked up. "I wanted the last image to be something else. A woman calmly eating dinner at her own party. Let them choke on that instead of my tears." Marcus nodded slowly. "That's braver than crying." "I don't know about braver. Stubborn for sure." She smiled faintly. "My dad says stubbornness is the only thing I inherited from him, and it costs him more than if he'd left me actual debt." "Where is he, your dad?" "I sent him home. He was hurting worse than I was." Savannah's voice dropped. "That's the worst part of all this, you know. It's not what they did to me. It's my father's face when he came in to tell me Bradley wasn't coming. That man saved his whole life to pay for this hall so his only daughter could have a beautiful wedding, and some guy tore it apart with a text message." A pause. "That's part of why I'm staying. Partly for me, and partly because I don't want my dad's money, his hard-earned money, to end up in the trash without anyone getting to enjoy it." They sat quiet for a moment. Marcus looked around at the tables set for a celebration that never happened, and for the first time that night, he fully understood what was going on. This wasn't the tantrum of a humiliated woman. This was a daughter defending her father's sweat and years of work. This was dignity. And he who knew a lot about dignity, having earned his own one plate at a time, recognized it the way you recognize a fellow countryman in a foreign land. "Now I'll ask you something," Savannah said, pushing the subject away from herself. 9 years serving weddings, you said. What's the worst one you've ever worked on?" "Oh boy, there's stiff competition," Marcus let out a short laugh. "There was one where the groom mixed up the maid of honor with the bride during the toast in front of everybody. Dedicated a whole poem to the wrong woman." Savannah laughed a real laugh, the first of the night, and it surprised her that the muscle still worked. "No way. I swear, I had to go hide in the kitchen so nobody would see me cracking up. And there was another one where the cake fell, a 7-tier one like yours. The waiter carrying it slipped, and it landed right on an ant in a very expensive dress. The woman ended up covered head to toe in frosting, and you know what she did? Stuck her finger in the cake that was now on her shoulder, tasted it, and said, 'Well, the filling's not bad.'" Marcus smiled. "That woman earned my respect for life, same as you." "Now wait, don't change the subject," Savannah said, propping her elbow on the table. 9 years of weddings. I want more. What's the most beautiful one you've ever seen? Not the worst, the most beautiful." Marcus thought about it, turning his glass. "There was one," he said, "about 3 years ago. Older couple. He was around 70, she a little younger. Getting married at the courthouse, late in life after everything else. She'd been widowed, he'd never married before. They met at the farmer's market, each running their own stand, one selling flowers, the other selling peaches." He shook his head. "It was the smallest wedding I've ever worked. 30 guests. No 7-tier cake, none of this." He gestured at the huge room. "And it was the only time in 9 years I felt a lump right here." He touched his throat. Because when they danced, they looked at each other like they couldn't believe that at their age something like that still got to happen to them. Young people dance like they deserve it. They danced like it was a gift. Savannah watched him still. "You pay a lot of attention for a waiter," she said. "I'm a waiter precisely because I pay attention," Marcus answered. "A waiter who doesn't watch spills drinks. One who watches knows when to step in and when to disappear. That's basically the whole job." Knowing when to disappear. "Well, tonight I didn't disappear," he said it simply. "Tonight you didn't want to disappear alone. You can tell the difference." Savannah looked down at her plate. They sat quiet a moment, and it was a comfortable silence, the kind that doesn't ask to be filled. "Why haven't you gotten married?" she asked suddenly. "Sorry, that's a nosy question, but I've been telling you my whole life story all night." "Your turn." Marcus laughed. "Fair enough." He settled back. "I haven't gotten married because, look, when you spend 9 years serving other people's happiest day, it's strange to picture yourself on the other side. I know how to set the perfect wedding. I know where every fork goes, what time the cake comes out, how to fold a napkin so it looks like a flower." He shrugged. "What I don't know is how to sit down and let someone else do it for me. I've never gotten to be the guest, always the one serving." "That's a little sad, Marcus." "Don't say it with pity. You hate pity. I've seen it." He smiled to lighten it. "It's not sad, it's my trade. It feeds me and my mom." He hesitated. "Sometimes, though, during the last song, when everyone's leaving and I'm turning off the lights, I do wonder what it feels like. To have someone save you a seat, a dance, anything. For the party to be just once a little bit for me, too." Savannah looked at him a long moment. Something shifted in the air between them, something neither of them named. "Your mom," she said, changing the subject gently, because she understood he'd stepped near something deep and needed room to come back up for air. "What does she do?" "Cleans houses. 40 years cleaning other people's houses." Marcus said it without a trace of shame, and Savannah liked that about him. "She taught me the one thing I know for sure, that no job should ever embarrass you. That the only embarrassing thing is doing it badly or doing it with a bad attitude. I wait tables, she scrubs floors, and both jobs get done with pride or they don't get done at all." "My dad fixes appliances," Savannah said, and smiled. "I bet your mom and my dad would get along." "For sure." Marcus lifted his glass. "To them, then. To the people who work with their hands so their kids can afford expensive weddings that then leave them standing at the altar." "Ugh, what a terrible toast," Savannah laughed, but she clinked her glass against his. "But yes, to them." They drank. Outside, the world kept turning without them. "So what were you going to do?" Marcus asked. "After the wedding, I mean. The life you had planned." "I was going to keep working at the pharmacy while I finished nursing school," Savannah said. "I've got 3 semesters left. I study Tuesday and Thursday nights." She twisted her mouth. "Bradley used to say, 'What's the point once we're married? You won't need to work.' I should have paid closer attention to that sentence. When a man tells you you won't need to work, what he's really telling you is, you won't need to be free." "A nurse," Marcus repeated. "Suits you." "Why does it suit me?" "Because I've spent this whole night watching you take care of everybody except yourself," he said. "You sent your dad home so he wouldn't suffer. You sat me down so I wouldn't have to eat standing up. Even with poor Bradley on the phone, the only thing you're actually going to demand is that he pay your father back, not that he apologize to you." He looked at her. "You're one of those people who take care of others. You just haven't learned yet to let someone take care of you once in a while." "Oh, no," Savannah said, and laughed to hide how much that had landed. "I'm terrible at that. Ask my father." "I'll ask him when I meet him." He said it without thinking naturally, and the second it was out, they both realized what it implied. When I meet him. Like there was going to be an after. Like tonight wasn't going to end when the sun came up. They sat quiet a second, both a little flushed, like teenagers. "Sorry," Marcus said. "That slipped out." "Don't apologize," Savannah said quietly. It's the first nice thing anybody's assumed about my future all night. Can I ask you something dumb? Savannah said, after a while, turning her glass eyes down. You like me, Marcus, honestly, not out of politeness. I like you a great deal, and I'll tell you why. Marcus turned serious, warmly serious. In 9 years, I've seen plenty of rich people throw a fit over a badly poured glass of wine. And I've seen people who have nothing say thank you for a glass of water. You just took the worst hit life can deal a person in public, and instead of breaking something or insulting somebody, you sat down, ordered dinner, and treated me, the waiter, like a human being. That doesn't happen often. Trust me. Savannah looked down at the tablecloth. She felt something hot behind her eyes, and this time it wasn't humiliation. It was something else, warmer, more dangerous. Don't make me cry now, Marcus, she said, with a watery laugh. I made it through the whole night. It'd be a shame to break over a waiter's compliment. Then I take it back. No, leave it. She lifted her glass. Leave it right there. And they toasted in the empty ballroom the bride and the waiter to nothing in particular and to everything at once. What neither of them said, because it was too soon to say it, was that in that half hour of stolen dinner, they'd talked more honestly than Savannah had in 14 months with Bradley. That there was something about the way Marcus listened, really listened, without rushing to answer, without checking his phone, that made her feel for the first time all night not alone in the world, but alone with someone, which is the kind of alone that doesn't hurt. Savannah's phone buzzed on the tablecloth at 11:15. It had been off in her bag all night, and she'd only turned it back on to let her father know she was okay. The moment it connected, the messages started falling in, one after another, like stones. Most were from friends. Are you okay? Let me know if you need anything. That jerk didn't deserve you. But among them was a string of texts, all from one name. The name she'd figured would be hers to carry for the rest of her life. Bradley. Savannah looked at the screen without touching it. Marcus, who'd been about to get up and clear the dirty plates, stopped when he saw her face. You okay? It's him. Savannah turned the phone so he could see, though he couldn't quite read it. Now he's got plenty to say. Look at this. 127 messages. 7. Couldn't scrape together the nerve to send even one on time, but he's got plenty of explaining to do now. You don't have to read them, Marcus said. I do have to read them. Otherwise they'll gnaw at me all night. Savannah gave a joyless smile. Better to know what he wrote and hate him with the facts, not my imagination. She read them out loud because saying it aloud seemed to strip it of its power. Sav, I know you're never going to forgive me, and I'm not asking you to. She scoffed. Good, because I wasn't going to. Next. I realized too late that I wasn't ready. It's not you, you're amazing. She looked up. It's not you, Marcus. You know how many times a man says it's not you, right when it absolutely is? Plenty. Plenty, she kept going. I know I spent your father's money, and I swear I'll pay every cent back. Just give me time. Her voice hardened here just slightly. That one I actually care about. That he pays my father back every dollar. The rest I don't care. But that, no. She lowered the phone. And the last one says I still love you. When you've calmed down, we can talk. The room went quiet. Far off, faintly, you could hear music from another party in another hall, people celebrating things that had actually happened. What are you going to say back? Marcus asked quietly. Nothing for now. Savannah turned the screen off. Whoever answers with hot blood loses. My dad taught me that fixing appliances. Never stick your hand in while the motor's still running. Wait for it to cool down. But before she could put the phone away, it rang again. This time it wasn't a text, it was a call. The screen lit up with Bradley's name and a photo of the two of them from a beach trip, smiling that Savannah had set as his contact photo months ago and no longer recognized. They both looked at the phone, buzzing. You don't have to answer, Marcus said. No, Savannah said, but I want to. She looked at him. Not to fight, to close the door. She set the phone on the table and put it on speaker, her hands steady. I want to witness that I didn't beg. It's your call, miss. I'll step away. Stay, Savannah answered. Sav? Bradley's voice filled the table, so familiar, so warm, so fake now. Sav, thank God you picked up. I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Bradley? Savannah cut him off with a calm she didn't recognize in herself. I'm going to talk, and you're going to listen, because this is going to be the last time you hear my voice without a lawyer in the room. Understood. Silence on the other end. Yeah, understood. Good. Savannah took a breath. 1, I don't hate you. It took me 2 hours, but I don't. Hating takes too much energy, and you're not worth the energy. 2, we are not going to talk once I've calmed down. I am calm. Look at me, perfectly calm, and there's nothing to talk about. 3, and this is the only thing I actually care about. You are going to pay my father back every last cent this wedding cost. Not for me, for him. That man opened his home to you and gave you his daughter, and you paid him back with a text message? So you're going to pay. And if you won't do it the easy way, my witness here and I will handle it the other way. Marcus raised his eyebrows, surprised to be included, but he didn't say anything. Sav, wait, Bradley said, and now his voice had something else in it, something rushed, something slipping out of his control. Don't talk to me about lawyers. We can work this out between us like always. I know you. I know you're upset. You have every right, but you're not this cold. Give me a week and we'll talk with clear heads. With clear heads. Savannah gave a short laugh. Bradley, you made the biggest decision of your life with such a clear head you couldn't even say it to my face. Don't come to me now asking for clear heads. You're being cruel. No, I'm being clear. That's not the same thing, even if to people who got used to me swallowing everything, it sounds the same. Savannah's mouth tightened slightly. You want to know what's actually cruel, Bradley? Leaving 200 people waiting. Leaving a man who saved his whole life looking like a fool over his own investment. Leaving a woman standing in a ballroom in a dress she paid off in installments. That's cruel. I'm just telling you the truth over the phone, which is more than you did for me. Silence on the other end, then weakly, Witness, who's with you? Are you already seeing someone? Savannah, the wedding was today. How could you? And there, for the first time all night, Savannah laughed with genuine delight, a real laugh that echoed through the empty hall. Bradley, listen to yourself. You left me standing in front of 200 people 3 hours ago, and now you're going to get jealous? She shook her head, even though he couldn't see it. The person with me is the finest human being I've met in this city, and I met him today serving me the dinner you didn't stay to eat. That tells you everything. Good night. Pay my father back. She hung up. Her hands shook a little as she set the phone down, but her face was calm. Marcus watched her with something new in his eyes, something that wasn't just recognition anymore. The finest human being I've met in this city, he repeated softly. Savannah realized what she'd said and blushed, something that hadn't happened to her since middle school. Don't let it go to your head, she said. The competition tonight was pretty low. Still, Marcus sat back down slowly. Nobody's ever introduced me as the finest person in the city before, especially not on a call where they were just trying to tear the person saying it apart. He paused. That means something. I didn't say it so it would mean something. I said it because it's true. Savannah pushed the phone away, face down. You know what the worst part of all this is? It's not that he left. It's that just now on that call I realized that even when he apologizes, it's all about him. I'm sorry, I know I messed up. I still love you. I. She lowered her voice. Not once did he ask how my father was doing. Not once did he ask if I was actually okay. He just wanted me to lift the weight off him. There are people like that, Marcus said. They mess up, and instead of carrying the guilt, they go looking for someone else to carry it for them. And it's almost always the person who least deserves it. 14 months, Marcus. I thought I knew him. Maybe you did. Or maybe tonight is the first time he's ever really met himself, and he didn't like what he saw, and that's why he ran. Marcus shrugged. I'm not defending him. I'm just saying people show you who they are when it's their turn to be brave. He had to be brave for you tonight in front of 200 people and he couldn't do it. You had to be brave alone, and here you still are. That tells you everything you need to know about the two of you." Savannah sat, quiet, looking at him. "Where did you learn to talk like that?" she asked. "Like you actually think things through before you say them. Most people just blurt out whatever comes to mind first." "I told you my job is paying attention." Marcus smiled. 9 years quiet carrying trays listening to people talk about their lives at these tables. You learn a lot about people when they forget you're even there. You learn what actually matters to them and what they only say to look good. He looked at her. "You, for instance, have spent this whole night saying you're furious with Bradley about your father's money, but you're not furious about the money." "Oh no." Savannah raised an eyebrow. "And why am I furious, according to you, since you know so much?" "You're furious because you believed him." He said it gently, no edge to it. "Money can be paid back. The trust he was handed can't. That's what actually hurts. That you opened the door, let someone all the way in, and that someone ran off and left the house standing wide open." Savannah didn't answer right away. Her eyes went damp, and this time she didn't fight it. "You are a very dangerous waiter, Marcus Bell," she said finally, voice thick. "You serve a man his salmon and read his soul on the side." "Come standard with the menu," he said, and she laughed through the tears, and tonight the tears didn't taste like humiliation. They tasted like relief. And neither of them said, because it was still too soon, that this empty ballroom had become, without either of them noticing, the warmest place either one had been in a long time. At 11:30, Mr. Dawson came to collect on reality. He crossed the room with his accountant's face and his serious mustache and stopped in front of the head table, hands clasped, glancing sideways at Marcus, seated like a guest, a used plate in front of him. But it was to Savannah that Dawson spoke. "Miss Whitfield, good evening. I am truly sorry about everything that happened, truly." He cleared his throat. "But I have to be straightforward with you. The hall is booked through 1 o'clock. After one house policy is to bill by the hour, and it isn't a small rate. Frankly, I'd suggest you head out before it costs you even more on a day that's already cost you plenty." It was a graceful exit. He was offering her a dignified way to leave. And for 1 second, Savannah was tempted to take it, because she was tired and the adrenaline was starting to wear off and the thought of her own bed was sweet. But then she looked at Marcus standing there, still in his apron after the whole long shift, and she looked at the empty ballroom, and something settled into place inside her. "Mr. Dawson," she said, "charge me for the hours after 1. The manager named the figure. It was steep. Savannah did the math. "I'll pay for 2 hours, she said, and pulled a card from her purse before she could talk herself out of it. "Through 3. And I want to ask you one last favor. I'll pay extra if I have to. I want the music kept on." She looked toward the stage where, hours ago, a live band was supposed to play. They'd left long since. "The band's gone, I know. But we also booked the sound system with the recorded playlist just in case. That should still be here. I want it running until I leave." Dawson looked at her, and something in his accountant's face softened, because even men in serious mustaches have hearts under their vests. "The sound system stays on free of charge," he said. "That's on the house." He took the card, hesitated, and added choir, "And as for Belle sitting down, I didn't see a thing. Good night." He turned to go, and before he reached the door, without turning around, he said, "What you did tonight took real courage. I've seen plenty of crying at these tables. I've never seen anyone dine like that." Once they were alone again, Marcus let out the breath he'd been holding. "Did you hear that?" Savannah said, still watching the door Dawson had gone through. "Dawson? The guy who counts every minute? Even him, Marcus agreed. "And I promise you that man doesn't hand out compliments, even at Christmas. So I'm not completely crazy." "You're not crazy at all." Marcus gathered the last plates from the head table and stacked them carefully. "I'm going to say something, and this time no filter, since they can't fire me now that you've already paid for 2 hours of my time without even knowing it." He looked at her. I came in tonight thinking I was about to work the worst party of my career. The wedding canceled, the bride devastated, everyone running for the exits. A disaster. He set the plates down. Instead, I got the best night of work I've had in 9 years. The best serving plates to one single person in an empty ballroom. The best because tonight, finally, what I served actually mattered. He set the plates down. At a normal wedding, I'm invisible. I fill glasses, I clear plates, nobody looks at my face. Tonight, though, what I did, staying, serving you, sitting when you asked me to, held something up, held someone up. It wasn't serving for the sake of serving. It was serving to keep a person from breaking. That's never happened to me before. Savannah looked at him a long moment and felt something inside her tighten and then loosen all in the same instant. I nearly had a heart attack, he said, shifting the tone to lighten things, smiling. When Dawson walked in, I thought he was going to fire me right in front of you. I told you I'd back you up. Savannah stood, straightened her spine, and for the first time in hours walked away from the head table, toward the center of the room, toward where the dance floor was. The colored lights kept turning slowly over the empty floor patches of blue and gold spinning across nothing. Come here, I want to see this up close. Marcus followed. They stood together at the edge of the dance floor, watching the lights turn. You know what's the strangest thing about my job? He said. I watch everybody else dance every single night, and it's never my turn. You spend your whole life next to the party, never inside it. I danced once, Savannah said, at our rehearsal with Bradley. We counted the steps out loud and laughed because he couldn't keep the rhythm. She went quiet. It was supposed to be my first dance as a married woman. The waltz. Every girl imagines it, you know, from the time she's little. The dress, the music, the man. She laughed without much humor in it. Well, I've got the dress, I've got the music, just missing the man. Turns out that was the important part. You've got plenty of ballroom, though, Marcus said. And she was grateful he made the joke because it took the edge off the sadness. Do you dance? She asked. Not at all. Told you I'm always on the other side of the tray. Marcus shook his head. One time at the staff holiday party, Miss Dot dragged me out onto the floor and I stepped on her feet so many times she never asked me again. I think that turned out to be my strategy, without meaning to. I don't believe you. A man who moves as smoothly as you do between tables has to have some rhythm. Between tables is different. I know where I'm going there. Marcus turned serious for a moment. Dancing's another thing. Dancing is letting someone lead you, or leading someone yourself. And I've gone a long time without letting anyone lead me anywhere. Savannah glanced at him sideways. The colored lights washed over his face, blue, gold, blue. Can I tell you something, Marcus? And don't laugh. I'm not laughing. All night I thought what got taken from me was the wedding, the husband, the future I already had mapped out in my head, the house, the kids, the holidays. She crossed her arms, not defensively, more like she was holding herself together. But looking at this empty dance floor right now, I realized what actually hurt the most was something much smaller. And I'm almost embarrassed to say it. Say it, Marcus said. We've spent this whole night telling each other things we wouldn't tell anyone else. One more won't change anything. It bothered me that nobody was going to ask me to dance. She got it out fast in one breath. The bride at a wedding, everybody asks her to dance. Her father, her uncles, her friends, one after another. It's one of the few nights in a woman's life where the whole world wants to dance with you. And tonight nobody was going to ask me, because the one who was supposed to start that dance left, and without him, nobody else dares to. She laughed at herself, embarrassed. I know, with everything else that happened, complaining about a dance. It's not silly, Marcus said, very serious. It is. It isn't. He turned to face her. It's the opposite of silly. It's the one thing all night that has nothing to do with Bradley or the money or the people who left. It has to do with you, with what you wanted for yourself. And that is never silly, Savannah. That's the most important thing you've said all night. She looked at him, and for a second it seemed like he was about to say something more, but he didn't. He held the words back like someone saving a good card for the right hand. They stood there a while, not talking, watching the lights. And in that silence, something got decided between them without a word. Marcus knew what he wanted to do. And he knew, too, that he shouldn't do it out of pity, or to take advantage of a woman who was hurting, or to make himself the hero of a night that belonged to her. If he was going to do it, it had to come the right way. It had to be an invitation between equals, not a rescue. So he didn't do it, yet. He tucked the impulse away, went to the kitchen, helped the last few staff members finish clearing up, said goodnight to each of them, turned off the kitchen lights. By 1:30, Magnolia Hall was empty of everyone but two people, a bride without a groom and a waiter at the end of his shift. Savannah had sat down on the edge of the stage, her enormous dress spread out around her like a falling cloud, shoes finally off, bare feet against the cold floor. She looked tired, human, beautiful in that way that only shows up once someone stops posing. Marcus came over, carrying 2 glasses of water, and handed her one. "Everyone's gone," he said. "It's just you and me and an electric bill that's going to give Dawson a heart attack." Savannah laughed, drank the water, looked at this man she hadn't known that morning, and who at this hour of the night felt like the most solid person in the whole world. "Don't you want to go home?" she asked. "It's so late. Your mom must be worried." "My mom goes to bed early. She texts me goodnight and doesn't wait up for a reply. I'm used to it by now." Marcus sat down on the edge of the stage, a respectful distance away. "And no, I don't want to leave. Do you want me to leave?" "No," Savannah said quickly, and then laughed at how fast she'd said it. "Sorry, that sounded desperate." "It didn't sound desperate. It sounded honest. That's different." He paused. "Because if you leave, it's over, and the second it's over, tomorrow starts, and everything else that comes with it. The phone calls, the questions, the whole town's pity face. 'Oh, Savannah, how are you doing?' She tilted her head, mimicking the tone. 'Tonight, this strange little bit of time with you is the one good thing this entire terrible day is going to have, and I'm in no hurry to end it.' Then let's not end it yet," Marcus said. "Simple as that. Dawson gave us until 3. And nobody's waiting on me except a goodnight text that already came in. You won't get in trouble by staying. The only one who'll get in trouble is me, with myself, if I leave," he said. "And that boss is harder on me than Dawson ever was." Savannah smiled. "Marcus, can I confess something dumb? You've confessed a lot of things tonight and none of them dumb. Go ahead." "Of everything I lost today, the dress, the party, my dignity in front of everybody, the thing that actually made me angriest when I thought about it was something small." She looked at the floor. "It made me angry that all night nobody was going to ask me for a dance. The bride, the one person at a wedding everyone lines up to dance with, and nobody was going to ask me because the one person who was supposed to start it all left." She smiled, a little embarrassed. "I know it's silly, with everything else that happened, but that's what hurt the most." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he reached down and untied the apron he'd had on since 5 that afternoon. He took it off, folded it carefully into a neat square, the way you fold something you respect, and set it over the back of one of the 200 empty chairs. Without the apron and just the black vest and white shirt, he no longer quite looked like a waiter. Under the colored light still turning, he simply looked for the first time like a man. He walked over to the sound system on the stage. Savannah watched him, not quite understanding, as he scrolled through the playlist she and Bradley had picked out months ago in another life. He found the one he was looking for, the waltz, the first dance that never happened, and set it up, finger hovering over the button. Then he stepped down off the stage, crossed the empty dance floor, through the patches of blue and gold light turning over nothing, and stopped in front of her. He straightened up, and with a seriousness that held no trace of a joke, with the voice of a man offering the little bit of truth he actually had, he gave a small bow and held out his hand. "May I have this dance, miss?" Savannah looked at him from the edge of the stage, barefoot, her installment plan dress spread out around her, and felt something that had broken that afternoon at 9:20-something she'd been carrying all night, pretending it didn't hurt, settle at last into place. "Do you even know how to waltz?" she asked, voice watery. "No," Marcus said, honest to the end. Not a clue. Fair warning so you can't complain later. Savannah laughed, and the laugh turned into a little bit of good crying on the way out. Perfect. Bradley didn't know either. She put her hand in his. He helped her down off the stage, and she stood barefoot on the cold floor, much shorter without her heels. He reached back and pressed the button. The music filled Magnolia Hall, the waltz, the melody she'd been imagining since she was a little girl, bouncing off the crystal chandeliers and the 200 empty chairs and the abandoned tables with their wilting centerpieces. And they danced. They danced badly, it has to be said. Marcus stepped on her feet twice, apologized 3 times, and counted the steps under his breath like a beginner. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Same as she had counted them at the rehearsal in another life. Savannah led him more than he led her, and at some point they both stopped pretending they knew what they were doing and simply moved slow, turning in the center of the empty ballroom. The bride without a groom and the waiter without his apron, under lights, spinning over nothing. 1, 2, 3, he counted quietly. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, that was your foot. I know it was my foot, Marcus. It's my foot. I felt it. I told you I didn't know how. And I told you it was fine. Savannah laughed. Relax. There's no judges here. They all left hours ago. I want it to be nice. You've owed yourself this since you were a little girl. It's turning out nice. She closed her eyes for a moment. Trust me, it's turning out really nice. They turned slowly. The music wrapped around them, echoing off the chandeliers. Can I ask you something else, Marcus? Another one. You never stop asking. Why did you do this, really? You could have gone home hours ago. Your shift ended. Nobody was making you stay with the crazy woman from the banquet to waltz at 2 in the morning. Marcus took a while to answer. He counted 2 more steps before he spoke. Remember I told you about that older couple? The ones from the market? The ones who danced like it was a gift? I remember. My whole life I've envied them a little. Not for being old, obviously. For dancing like it's a gift. They turned. And tonight watching you, sitting alone at that long table, not folding, eating your dinner with your crown crooked, I thought, this woman understands something almost nobody understands. That dignity isn't about not getting knocked down, it's what you do after you get knocked down. He looked at her. And I wanted even just once in 9 years to be on the good side of a party. Not carrying the tray on the side where things happen that actually matter, but standing with someone who deserved it. That's why I did it. Savannah felt her throat tighten. I'm going to tell you something. She murmured, her head close to his shoulder. And don't say it back in the kitchen. I don't have anyone to tell. Everyone's gone. She laughed against his shoulder. This is the best dance of my life, and I got left at the altar today. Isn't that something? Then don't leave me at the altar, Marcus said. This is the first dance anyone saved for me in 9 years. It'd be a shame if it didn't count. I won't leave you at the altar. Promise, I promise. Savannah lifted her head. Even though I barely know you and you barely know me and all of this is a kind of crazy I won't be able to explain to my father tomorrow. Tomorrow you don't owe anybody an explanation for anything, Marcus said. Tonight you don't owe anyone an explanation but yourself. And from what I can see, you're very happy with what you decided. I am very happy with what I decided, she repeated, and it was true. And it struck her as so strange to be happy on the day she got left at the altar that she laughed again. You know what's the strangest part, Marcus? I'm not scared of anything tonight anymore. This morning I cried out of nerves thinking about this dance, my wedding dance, and now I'm dancing it late with the wrong man according to the whole world. And I'm not crying out of nerves. She lifted her face toward him. I'm crying about something else, something that doesn't have a name yet. I don't have a name for it either, Marcus said softly, but I'm not afraid of it. Me neither, she said. And tonight, that's a miracle. Savannah lifted her head and looked at him, and there, in the center of the empty ballroom, the music turning around them, she understood what Marcus had done without ever saying it. Nobody had rescued her. She had saved herself sitting down to eat her dinner, refusing to run. paying the manager for 2 extra hours so the music wouldn't stop. The only thing Marcus had done, and it was everything, was refuse to treat her like a spectacle and see her instead for what she was, a woman who deserved a dance. "The bride who stayed for dinner," she said suddenly and laughed. "That's what those cousins called me when they were leaving. Look, still sitting there eating dinner." She shook her head. "And you just turned it into something else. It doesn't sound like an insult anymore. Sounds like a title." She shook her head, amazed. "The bride who stayed for dinner. Who stayed and who danced. I'll take that. Let them keep their pity." And they kept dancing until the song ended, and then they played it again, because when you've been waiting for a dance since you were a little girl, 1 3-minute waltz isn't nearly enough to settle the debt. A year later, Magnolia Hall filled up again for Savannah Whitfield, but it was different this time. It was a small wedding, 30 chairs, not 200. And this time the groom actually showed up early. In fact, because Marcus Bell had learned, in 9 years of serving weddings, that the worst thing that can happen to a room is an empty chair waiting for someone who never comes. Frank Whitfield walked his daughter down the aisle without clearing his throat this time, his face clean and proud. Bradley, who did in fact pay back every last cent because a witness can be very persuasive, was not invited, which surprised absolutely no one. Before the small crowd of guests arrived, when the hall was still quiet, Marcus stood in the kitchen doorway, looking out at the set tables, still not quite able to believe it. "It looks strange from here," he told Savannah, who came over and took his hand. "What looks strange?" "The room from this side." He nodded toward it. 9 years I watched it from the kitchen, timing the cake. Today I'm looking at it from the door as a guest, and I don't even know where to stand." "You're going to stand next to me," she said. "That's your spot today, and from now on. And if you forget and grab a serving tray, if I grab a tray, Miss Dot will take it out of my hands with a wooden spoon." Savannah laughed. "She already warned me, said today you sit and she cooks, and if she catches you working, she's kicking you out of your own wedding." Miss Dot, passing by at that exact moment with an actual tray, caught her name and didn't miss a beat. "That's right, Marcus, honey," she said without stopping. "Today you're the king. 9 years serving everybody else, never once sat down. Today you're sitting, even if I have to tie you to the chair." She winked at Savannah. "And you don't spoil him too much, he'll get used to it." "No promises, Miss Dot," Savannah called back. Frank walked his daughter down the aisle, without clearing his throat this time, face clean, proud. When he handed her over to Marcus, he stopped for 1 second and said to the groom quietly, man to man, "A year ago, one young man left my daughter standing in this very room, and another young man stayed to look after her without anybody asking him to." He squeezed his shoulder with a hand still rough from fixing appliances. "I don't know much about life, son, but I know the difference between the one who runs when things get hard and the one who stays. Welcome to the family." "Thank you, Frank," Marcus said, voice tight. "I promise you that chair's never going to sit empty. Not on my watch." "I know," the old man said. "That's why I'm at peace." They served a banquet, of course, but this time it was a banquet for 2 with Marcus on the other side of the table, no apron hands, finally still letting himself be served for the first time in his life. And on the invitation below the couple's names in small print that only the people who'd been there that first night would understand was printed a single line one Savannah had asked for, and the printer hadn't understood but had gone along with anyway. "With love from the bride who stayed for dinner." They danced the waltz. They danced it just as badly as the first time, counting the steps, laughing, because some things don't get better with time, and that's fine, because you don't do them to get them right. You do them to remember who you were when you first learned how.